Good evening. Welcome you all for today's session registers. In the previous class, we discussed about SISO and SAPO. In this session, we are going to discuss about PISO and PIPO. PISO registers are nothing but parallel in serial out registers and parallel in parallel out registers. From the name itself, we can say it is nothing but PISO means your input will be in parallel and your output will be in serial. PIPO means both your input and output will be in parallel. So this is about PISO and PIPO. Let us discuss in detail. So first, parallel in serial out registers. So this parallel in serial out register which allows parallel input data which is given separately to each flip-flop and produces a serial output is known as parallel in parallel out. The logic circuit shows a parallel in serial out register. It consists of D flip-flops which are connected. The clock input is directly connected to all the flip-flops, but the input data is connected individually to each flip-flop through a multiplexer at the input of every flip-flop. So the output of the previous flip-flop and parallel data input are connected to the input of the mux, and the output of the mux is connected to the next flip-flop. So all these flip-flops are synchronous with each other since the same clock signal is applied to each flip-flop. See, you can see the circuit diagram here. It is a parallel in serial out circuit diagram where your inputs are in parallel and your outputs are in serial, right? So here we have multiplexer and an AND OR function like 2 to 6, we have 6 AND gates and 3 OR gate, as well as we have 4 flip-flops, then serial input, clock pulse and serial output. Sorry, parallel input and serial output. So the inputs are given in parallel to each flip-flop and it is driven by clock pulse. So the output will be received in serial. So this is parallel in serial out. So this parallel in parallel out. So the next one is parallel in parallel out. So the shift register which allows parallel input, that is the data is given separately to each flip-flop and in a simultaneous manner, and also produces a parallel output is known as parallel in parallel out shift register. So the logic circuit given below shows a parallel in parallel out shift register. This circuit consists of 4 D flip-flops which are connected together. So the clear signal and clock signals are connected to all the 4 flip-flops. In this type of register, there are no interconnections between individual flip-flops since no serial shifting of the data is required. So the data here is given as input separately for each flip-flop, and in the same way the output is also collected individually from each flip-flop. So this is the circuit diagram of parallel in parallel out. So we can see the inputs are in parallel and the outputs are also in parallel. So 4 flip-flops as usual. We can see 4 flip-flops here. Flip-flop 1, flip-flop 2, flip-flop 3, flip-flop 4. We are using D flip-flop here. We know very well D flip-flop means whatever input we give, the same will be received in our output. And as usual, we have a clock signal which is used to drive the flip-flops. And parallel input is given to all the 4 D flip-flops like A, B, C, D. Okay, we have 4 flip-flops. It can be named as A, B, C, D. So your inputs are also A, B, C, D, and your outputs, if you give whatever you give in the input, the same will be received in our output. So here the 4 D flip-flops are given with the parallel input and also with the clock pulse, and immediately we have to clear the previous data, and by using clock pulse we can give parallel inputs and the same parallel output will also be received. So a parallel in parallel out shift register is used as a temporary storage device. Unlike SISO shift register, it acts as a delay element. Thank you.